Welcome, everybody. This is the Fall Line with Chaos and Company. And as we stated in the last one, Angela and I are trying to do some summertime stuff. Even the two of us can barely have a phone conversation this summertime. You were on Zoom this afternoon, weren't you, Angela, when I tried to call you?
Well, I was on Zoom when you tried to call me. Yeah.
Yeah, I figured. So
you know what? That's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah, I figured when you're like, I can't talk right now, I'm like, he's got to be on Zoom. So, but we're on, and we'd like to thank the friends of the podcast, Blizzard Technica, who helped us out a lot and has been a huge supporter for the last 3 years. And we're looking to keep them on in the future. They've been a great partnership, and then also a lot of rollerblade stuff going on down at Big Snow. They just had a big one. They got another one coming up, I think, next week down there again, and then some stuff this fall. So, get out the rollerblades, get on there if you don't have some. Look up Miles Cotter Sparrow and get some blades. And not yet, but soon we'll all be putting boots on. Like we have Katie White here, and we have Kevin Jordan, and they have their ski boots on. I believe they both had them on today. But if you're looking to get some new boots, you need some boot fitting, get over to Nick's Boot Fitting at Mount Snow this fall and get your stuff set up. I know a lot of us do that, a lot of the crew. And but we have two of our team members, Kevin Jordan, second term. Unbelievable. And I was telling Troy, Kevin, I'm like, it's a full 4-year term now. You get the full term finally, not this 3-year gig. And Katie, congratulations on your first term. Pretty exciting. And what's going down there in Portillo? Last time we talked to Michael, he's like, and Troy, oh, the skiing's great. It's amazing and all this stuff. So how is it now?
It's been an amazing season. I don't think I've ever seen, this is my 9th season down here, and I don't know if I've ever seen it open as strong as it did this year. So it's been really cool. We're like totally open and skiing everything, and we're actually getting a storm cycle right now. It's just starting. So that's cool. We'll have a little bit of a refresh.
Yeah. And Michael was telling us that August tends to be kind of a North American crew comes down. And then I guess a lot of the teams come in, the national teams from the different countries to ski. So this must be a pretty cool month.
Yeah, it's super cool. We get some different camps that come down. We've got Eric Lipton camp, Chris Davenport, Superstars, Kim Reichhelm, Chris Fellows with NASTEC. And then the teams are cool. So we have USA men and women. So Schifrin will be down here, and that's always super awesome to watch. And then we get Norwegian men, Canadian men, and there's a few others that kind of rotate depending on snow and stuff. But yeah, it's a pretty entertaining month in Portillo.
That's cool. And Kevin, you're down there. Troy was down there a little while ago. Finally got home. He got into the old mix there with the computer issues and couldn't fly home. He was just so disappointed that he had to stay in Portillo for a few more days and, just ski on free skis from Michael and beat him up. So Michael's probably still been tuning all the skis that Troy beat up. But Kevin, you're down there skiing. I know you're down there with Carve, I believe, and doing some stuff with them. What's the partnership you have with Carve? And can you tell us a little bit about that if people don't know what Carve is?
Yeah, sure. Well, hey, first off, thanks for having us on. And we wanted to bring a little bit of speed.
Yep, there you go. You gotta have your supporters, man. Absolutely.
A little bit. And
thank you for that.
Now you can see what we look like. But I'm down here and working with Carve. We're doing a photo shoot / YouTube tip project. So we've been doing a lot of filming every day. The first 2 days were pretty sunny. And then we got a little bit of snow just today and a little bit of flat light yesterday. So what we're trying to do is tell the story of how people, how they think like they should just improve by doing more skiing, which is great, but it's actually like you need to have a little bit more quality than say quantity. So what are you looking at? What are you doing? And we're also doing some product testing because Carve in the fall is going to have a really cool new product. We're not actually really allowed to talk about it, so I'm going to keep the suspense for you, but I can tell you I like it a lot more, and I'm an ambassador with Carve, and so is Katie. So there's two of us. So she's going to do some filming and some tips as well. So I figured it'd be fun to have both of us on here. But literally I had the call 2 weeks before I got on the plane, or maybe like a week and a half. And they're like, "Hey, do you want to come down to Portillo?" I was like, "I've been there before, of course." And then they're like, "Yeah, we'll do some shoot. We'll shoot some tips." And I was like, "Great." Like, maybe we'll take the helicopter out. It was like, even better. We haven't done that yet.
Yeah. So how does the Carve system work? It's kind of pressure based, right? And where the pressure is building on each foot and along the foot and that. I mean, what's it entail for somebody to put that in their boot?
Yeah. So right now, like what Carve set up is they call themselves a digital ski coach. So if you think about it, like right now, the only objective way to get some data on your skiing is for Katie and I to run through a race course, which happens on every Thursday here in Portillo, and then see who has the fastest time. What Carve does is they have an insert in the boot, although they may be changing some things. I can't really do that. But they have metrics, and the way it works is they have different metrics. So right now they have balance, edging, rotary, and pressure. And so they have 36 pressure sensors in that insert, and it can tell what your foot's doing. And they have about 500 million turns and counting in terms of data. So like the data scientists are actually some of the fun people to talk with because they know so much about skiing and different people's graphs, and they can share some of the raw data, which is unbelievable to just help you understand, like, what do you want to work on? Why do you want to work on it? So it actually helps you make some decisions. And my story with Carve is this guy, Thomas Renau, based in Aspen, he literally put those things in his boot and then got like the highest score. They call it the ski IQ. So he got like the highest score in the world of that. I think either he called them or they called him, being like, hey, do you want to be an ambassador with us? So he was the one who introduced me to it, which was really cool because he could guide me through the process as to how it works and if I had questions. So it's not like the Carve is going to replace us as, snow sports instructors. It's only going to add. And a lot of the people that show up in the lessons, like, they already have it. So we need to be knowledgeable about it because it can actually help you make decisions quicker. I'm not good at my edge angle here in the turn. Great. Well, let's go work on that.
Yeah. So have either of you been using it at all with customers that didn't think about that? That's just a regular private and you have them for the season or something. And then like, hey, I have this thing. Do you want to try this? It would be kind of cool to see the results.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people at Mini Academy and also at Masters Academy, now renamed Summit Academy, that have actually approached me and they've had questions about their scores or their metrics. And I've actually sat down and gone through it with them. And a couple of people have been in my group. And so we would do some different testing. I sometimes would have them on, sometimes wouldn't. I definitely cheated. I created a different boot board and 3 millimeters lower that I could fit the insert that was 3 millimeters. So I did the math and I have like a Carve setup. So I definitely kind of cheated in some ways, but that's one of the ways that I did it. But they're actually looking at that because they see that as a barrier when you have to put something into your boot. It's not as easy. So there are some exciting things that we can't necessarily talk about, but I'll keep foreshadowing it and maybe we'll do a follow-up. In the fall, when they're going to release it. So
cool stuff. So we're going to have to talk some more about that Carve, but we definitely have to bring Katie in here because Katie's kind of your host down there. And Katie, as far as I know, talking with Michael and that, I know you're the ski and snowboard school director down there. But can you tell us a little bit about your role in Portillo? And you mentioned you've been down there for 9 seasons now.
Yeah. So I did 6 seasons as an instructor, and this is Mike as the director here. And yeah, it's a little bit of a different job description than like any other ski school director position because all the instructors we live here together in employee housing, and there isn't really an option to not live here. So it's cool. I mean, it's a really fun. It's been challenging, this position, like managing people. Our ski school, I think right now we have 16 different countries represented.
Wow.
So it's interesting managing people from different cultures. A lot of times we're all speaking our second or maybe third language together. So that provides some entertainment and challenge. But yeah, and then we have guests that come from all over South America, a lot of Brazilians, Argentinians, Chileans, and then, like we talked about earlier, North Americans in August. So it's a unique role for sure, and I really love it.
So we notice up here, Angela and I definitely talk about it, that, and I bet you Kevin will go along, that, and you too, I mean, being up here you're in the Northern Hemisphere in our winter, but a lot of our ski school and snowboard school directors don't touch snow a lot, especially here in the East. So while you're down in the Southern Hemisphere, how much do you get out on snow? I imagine Michael encourages you to get on snow almost every day or every day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he doesn't necessarily have to encourage me. Definitely, I try to get out there. July is typically our busiest month, so I get kind of pulled in towards the office a lot. But yeah, I mean, I have boots on every day, and I would say minimum I ski for an hour a day, and usually more. But yeah, it's the cool thing about Portillo. I don't know if either of you have been here before. No. Yeah, it's you can get a good amount of skiing done in an hour. Like you can go up to one of our slingshot lifts, they're called, and in an hour on Roca Jack, you're pretty tired if you're skiing continuously top to bottom, because it's a pommel lift that goes up pretty steep terrain. And yeah, you don't necessarily have to stop. So in an hour you can accomplish a lot, which is cool.
That's cool. So how many months are you off in the spring and fall kind of thing? Like what's your shoulder season?
My shoulder season, I usually wrap up at Yellowstone Club at the end of April. And then I come down here in mid-June. So I have a month and a half off. And then Portillo season usually runs through the end of September. And then I'll start back up in person early November at Yellowstone Club. But I typically am working remote for them in October.
Yeah. And what do you do for fun in those shoulder months? I've seen a few photos. I think surfing's kind of in your realm there. I'm not sure what other activities.
Yeah, I try to surf, or more recently it's been more wakeboarding. My parents are in Illinois, so I go home and visit them, and we have a wakeboard boat, and then a cable park as well. So I get out on my wakeboard quite a bit.
Hey, Angelo, right up your alley, just with water, man. Water instead of wheels.
Not a fan of the water, bud. You can't breathe under there,
Oh God. Come on. It's a softer landing, though.
Not at the top of the food chain either. It's a softer landing unless you're going as fast as probably Katie likes to go.
Yeah. So Katie, so cool to make the team. Go ahead, Kevin. Yep.
I was going to say that I saw her out skiing today, and we tried to invite her to, there's a very famous restaurant called T.O. Bob's, because one of the people we were working with, we're kind of done shooting, wanted a pisco sour, and she turned us down. So she went skiing instead of coming to the après with us, which was great. And she also wrote an article, or helped, Peter Cray wrote an article about her with wakeboarding as well. So she's a pretty insane athlete, just to let everyone know. But and really let you know that the first time I ever went to Portillo was because of Doug Daniels, because I know a lot of your listeners are on the East Coast. He put together a trip with Kathy Brennan and Sue Kramer, and Luke Martin was on that trip, and I got to know all the Eastern folks. And that was back in like 2011 with a lot of people trying out. So I have this place is not only awesome, but two, like there was a lot of really great people on the East that I remember, and I got to know them all. And then we're all at the 2012 snowboard tryouts, but it was all that we met here. And like Lanny Tabley, I found there was a different St. Bernard when he was here, and there might have been some stories about that St. Bernard and him, but I found Petra, who is the St. Bernard here, the resident St. Bernard, and I took a picture and immediately sent it to Lanny. So.
I was going to say, you named a bunch of people, and I knew Lanny was on that trip, and I'm like, okay, he either doesn't want to mention it because there's some stories, or like Lanny, when Lanny's on a trip, you all remember Lanny's with you.
Oh man, it was some of the best. I was like, that guy is a lot of fun to hang out with. So.
Yes, he is. Lanny's one of our dudes out here, man. He's super fun to hang with, a great dude. And right now he's just building pools and fixing pools, and that's his gig right now till he gets back on snow. So hopefully he takes that hose with the gunite coming out of it, the cement coming out of it. I got to see that, because they described that when he's holding that, and man, that thing puts some pressure, and he's a tree trunk. But Lanny likes to have fun. Let me tell you, when work is done, it's time to go have some fun. And Katie, you've got some fun coming up. I remember asking Kevin this when he made the team the first time, and just curious of what his expectations were. And at that time when I asked him that question, I knew a little bit more of his tries, and it was like, I think, third or fourth try, right, Kevin?
Yeah, it was magical number 4.
Yeah. I mean, you had never given up, and great story. And you talked through each time when you hadn't made it, what you were going to do. The plan was like 30 seconds after you hadn't made it. Okay, I'm getting the plan, writing it down. So it was so cool to see that smile on his face and have him talk about what his expectations were going into the first season. And that's what I'm curious. What are your expectations like? What are you nervous about? What are you excited about going into team training? Because I know Troy was pretty super excited when he made it also for the last one.
Sorry, I think you cut out a little there, but I did hear you. It just was a little lagged. But no, I'm just like so honored to be on this team, and this was my second try, and yeah, it's definitely an honor, and I'm excited for the 4 years with the team, and having Troy and now Kevin, and obviously spending a lot of time with Michael down here has been great, and Brenna Kelleher, as an alumni, is currently down here as well. And so it's really amazing to be surrounded by awesome teammates. So, but I'm really excited to get out and meet some more of our membership and see what kind of influence I can have and how I can impact our organization. I know, like, the past couple seasons, I've been working with the Women of Winter program, and I'm very much looking forward to continuing to help build leaders within our industry, and yeah, just keep inspiring people to keep pushing forward and achieve their goals. That's, I think, the biggest thing for me. Yeah.
That's cool. And one of the things I know that all the team members do is definitely try to let people know their story and the journey it took, because so many people think it's easy, and they start going through their certifications and they always hit a bump at level 2 or level 3 and things get challenging. So it's, and I love to go back to the very beginning, because a lot of times it starts there. You're from Illinois, and I'm curious, I don't know anything about when you started skiing, if you were 2, 20. I mean, we've got Hafer that started Hafer started like he's 40, and then Hafer just got there ripping, after being in the military. But most of us had to start early. So when were you out there? Was it with family? Was it with friends? Did you do something in like a rec department, organize lessons? How did Katie White start skiing?
Well, my stepdad was a ski jumper growing up. And he's from Rockford, Illinois as well. And then so as I have 3 brothers, we learned to ski. I was, I think, 8 years old, but I switched to snowboarding pretty much right away. I probably had, 1 or 2 ski trips and then switched over to snowboarding, and I got absolutely hooked. And I snowboarded pretty much until I was hired at Yellowstone Club as a ski instructor. But my first instructing job was actually in college at Mount LaCrosse, and I was a snowboard instructor, and I taught our exercise. So there was a exercise science class that you could take through the university and get a credit for snowboarding. And I participated in it my freshman year. And then the ski school director at the time, Ken Edwards, he approached me towards the end of the class, and he's like, "Hey, next year, if you're interested, I'd love for you to teach that class." And I was totally honored and excited. And so I ended up teaching snowboarding. And then, I had a friend from college who moved out to Yellowstone Club a year before me, and by way of another friend of ours who's been a big influence in our life. And I got hired as a ski instructor teaching little kids. So that year I packed my bags. I was in San Diego and I drove up to Montana. I didn't own skis or ski boots at that point. and I bought them the morning of my level 1. I signed up to take my level 1. I wouldn't recommend this to people. But I went for it. I jumped all in. I signed up. I barely passed my level 1. It was pretty comical. I mean, I was like, so can you explain how to do that wedge turn again really quick? How do we stop? No, but I did. Yeah. I mean, I was excited to be there. And then I got just really into PSIA and learning and fell in love with skiing. And that season I ended up going for my level 2. And I got it. And then, yeah, I was like, from there, I was like, I got to get my level 3. That was my goal. So, yeah.
So, and when did the team thought come in? Like, was it when you did your level 1 or wow, or, was it down the road? Was it somewhere in the journey of going to level 2, level 3? Was it after you got your level 3?
Yeah. I took my level 3 the first time in 2015 and I didn't pass. And then I took it again in 2016 and I passed. And right around then I had met, Eric Lipton, who was on the team at the time. And I guess I had met him a couple years prior, but, he had been helping me train and everything for my level 3. But when I got it in 2016, pretty much as soon as they gave me the pin, I realized like I've got 4 years to train. So I immediately had my next goal and then it ended up being 5 years, which I absolutely needed that extra year. So that was a blessing for me, that we had, a COVID pause year where I had 1 extra year to train, but yeah.
That's super cool. So I guess that's the athlete part right there, Kevin. You were talking about that she's quite the athlete. Like, yeah, I just got skis that morning, jumped up there to do my level 1, guaranteed probably no boot fit, no alignment. There's no footbed. It's like, I don't know, could be 2 sizes too big.
I know. It's like he's winging it, and I actually met Kiki in the 2021 selection. She made it. I mean, in her first go, she made it to the last day. And I remember that because there was 8 people who didn't make it. And when I made it, I kind of had a deal with myself that I said, if I ever become successful doing this, I'll reach out to the people who weren't successful, because I had always wished that someone had done that to me. And so Kitty was one of the first people that I actually emailed, and she was the first to respond to. That's what I remember about that. But I sent an email like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. And like, this is hard to say, but it becomes this awkward, those that made it and those that didn't, but we're still humans. And so if you ever want to talk about it or there's anything I can do to help, it was just like taking that risk to throw it out there. And Kitty was the first to actually respond. She's like, oh my gosh, dude, this is so great. Like, thanks so much.
Yeah, it really meant a lot because you put so much into, I felt like for 5 years, that was my only big goal that I was striving for. And it was such a big thing. And not that I was proud of how far I made it. And I think anyone even getting to the tryout process should be proud, because it's a huge accomplishment just to be there. But it for sure, there were waves of emotions for 3 years for me. Up until I still was feeling those emotions after not making it, going into the second tryout. And so I was learning to manage those along the way, but it meant a lot to have Kevin, a friend, reach out and just be real with you. Like, it's not like, it was really, it meant a lot. So yeah, it was,
it sucks when you don't make it. And
yeah.
You've been there before, and it's not trying to take away from anything that they've done. But what was cool about it was then it created a different connection for us. So when she was there again in 2024, it was awesome. We were in the groups for the first 2 days, and it was cool to be, because we hadn't skied together really since. So, or maybe I've seen her in passing or saw some videos of her. She was doing some stuff with Carve, and I was like, wow, there's, again, go to that athlete thing where I was like a little jealous, but also really a little jealous because I was like, wow, changes to her ski. But it was incredible to kind of watch her grow and then just basically crush it in front of us, as we're doing some things and we're all vying for those spots. So I couldn't have been more psyched when they called her, because they're doing it alphabetical by last name, and we had to wait till the end. But then when I'm already up on stage, but like they said her name, I was like, you get so, the people that that have put themselves out there, and I think she'll be a wonderful addition to the team. So like when I was like, hey, I'm going to Portillo, you guys want to talk? You guys are like, yeah, and then hey, I'll talk to Katie too. They're like, oh yeah.
Well, thank you. Awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool though, huh, Angelo? For Kevin to reach out. I mean, those are the things that we, that matter. Those connections. Those someone saying, "Hey, I saw what you did, and it was so close." And I've been there multiple times, and it's tough. I don't know what to say but yeah, that was cool, Kevin, to do that. And I think you can see it made a big difference. And Katie, was it when you didn't make it the first time? Was there something like, I know I want to go here and do these 3 things or these 2, or was it a process of, okay, what do I need to do? And were there multiple facets, or how did you get over that hump?
I really took my time deciding whether or not that I wanted to continue the process. I mean, truthfully, up until a week before the packet was due this last go around, I was still like, is this what I want? Because, for me, it was a whole lot of self-growth within that time. And it's not that I didn't want to be on the team. I just knew that it was really hard for me not making it. And believe me, it's not that I think I should have made it. It was the hard part, to be clear, was the self-awareness that came along with not making it. And it was very humbling. Yeah. Oh yeah, I really wasn't there in any way. And I felt like at the last tryout, I went and I left everything on the table. I didn't really feel like I messed up. And so it almost would have been easier for me if I'd been like, I just totally blew that run, or I bombed my teach. But I went and I gave it my all, and it wasn't enough. And so I had a lot of for me, it was the layers of self-awareness. And so I really took my time, and I really, I spoke with a lot of people that I trust about, and I did a lot of self-reflection about where my career trajectory was going to go, what my passion was, do I want this? And ultimately what I said to myself about a year ago was, if I'm going to try out, I really need to know deep down that I want to be there. And so I did a lot of that reflection, and so, yeah, for me, that was my process. It took me longer than I would have thought. But in the meantime, I also prioritized having fun and skiing a bit more for myself, which we don't always get to do in the industry. And I was fortunate enough that I got time off last January to go to Switzerland on a vacation, and I ended up working with Carve a little bit. But that time was so valuable for me to ski 5 days on my own in a different country. And that was when I decided, yep, this is what I want. So.
Pretty cool, huh, Angelo? That self-awareness part's pretty important.
Could use some more of that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've been on both. You've been on that side now where you've scored them and seen what it takes.
Yeah, it's scoring. It's a tough job. Not as tough as competing in it, but it. I said before, the scoring process is taken pretty seriously, and it occurs to me as we're having this conversation. And Katie, when you said you were handed your pin and you already knew kind of what the next goal was going to be, and it's such a drive for a lot of people in the industry to make the team. And then at the same time, I think a pretty large chunk of our membership isn't really fully aware of what the role of the team is. And I wonder if you guys would explain, to some listeners, what the role and or the value of the team. What's the point?
That's great. I'm going to take a stab at this because I actually have pretty funny stuff. When I made it in 2021, it was the first time I ever had to explain it to another person. And because of COVID, and because we switched, from Patagonia to North Face, we had to do some Photoshop, kind of filming to get some pictures of us in like North Face gear. So we're on this like different North Face gear. I had some borrowed jackets, pants, all that stuff. And I remember this woman coming up to me and she's like, what's the deal? Like, why are you all in this different, like you're in a uniform, but some of you are, but some of you aren't. And so I was like, well, we all just made this like national team. It's like for the ski instructors. And like, as soon as I said ski instructor, she looked at me and she was like, oh, like a bunch of badasses. I was like, well, yeah, like, yeah, kind of, right? And I thought it was like a good way, and it was the first time I ever had to explain it. And since then, it's like, so the team is, every team is somewhat different, and it really shapes the U.S., snow sports instruction. So it's like they're out there testing new things. Like, obviously, they came to me from Carve as an ambassador because they have new technology. They want to understand, does this work for snow sports instruction? Does it not? So you're really trying to shape some of the direction of U.S. snow sports. And, we've been talking about strategic alignment. Angela knows a lot more about it. But the way I explain to people is it's kind of like, well, to explain the tryout, I use like ski instructor Olympics, right? Because this is the Summer Olympics. So you do different things and they challenge different things. They try to make you tired. And here's why, because after 2 hours of sleep and about 18 hours of a plane ride, I showed up to Portillo, put some Carve stuff on, and had to ski 2 hours and try to beat the person who had the best score here, which I did by 1 point, and then promptly passed out afterwards because I was so tired. The next day, that guy went on to beat me, and now it's like we're jockeying for position from there. But the interesting thing was, like, thank goodness I've had some tryouts in me. I've had an Interski in me where it's like hurry up and go until you have some time to actually decompress. And that's like the best way to explain some of those scenarios. But it's really that inspirational educator, athlete, coach, and demonstrator, so that you can show somebody how to do something. And that's what's happening, just here in Portillo in this amazing trip. I'm jealous if Katie gets to be here, but I also get to mountain bike a little bit too. So, it's like a fair.
Yeah.
Katie,
but come on, man, you could mountain bike and she had a month and a half. She talks about in the spring, about that in the fall. So there's 3 months, when you add them together. I mean, come on. You just got to talk to the wife. You got to see the kid. I mean, kids ski every day. What are they going to complain about?
I know the kids actually, like my son was asking about it. And I think it's about time that he needs to come down and kind of experience it, because just traveling into a different culture. I used to work in Las Leñas, which is just directly over the border and about a couple of hours outside of Mendoza, but it's still in the Andes range. And so like my Spanish came back to me right away. I mean, obviously I'm goofing up left and right, but it's like, oh, I know this code and I can crack it. And sometimes, we went in there and ordered some pisco sours because one of the guys really wanted it. And then I was like, what about for all of you? And I was like, well, I'm not paying, so maybe I shouldn't have joked about that. But.
Yeah. And back to the Carve, because I mean that's why you're down there skiing, and Katie's on the Carve team too. What's 1 or 2 things that it's done for you? Because I guarantee you can probably come up with 12 or 13 or 14 that you really think are great benefits. But for you personally, what is the top 1 or 2 things that you notice from using Carve that you like? When I put it on in the boot and I do this, I kind of find this out if I'm actually doing what I want. What is that thing, Katie?
I've got 2, and I'll jump in
to
let Katie think some more about how she's going to respond. But one is, I never knew how fast I was going until I started using them. So 40 to 50 miles an hour is somewhat the average speed that I tend to go, which I never knew how fast that was. That's 1. And then 2 is usually some of the pressure, especially at the end of the turn. Sometimes there's some asymmetries in your turns, and you don't always see that. You can see it on video. But sometimes you can feel it, and now you can actually measure it by saying, okay, so my right footer is a little stronger than my left footers, and maybe it's due to pressure, maybe it's due to edging, but it's actually helped me change some of the asymmetries in my skiing because I have some data. So those are the 2.
Yeah,
cool.
I think my 2. Well, I'm a little bit competitive, mostly with myself. And I just have to say, when Kevin got here and got onto the leaderboard, him and the guy that got that, they took my score, but I had to escort Troy to the airport and fly to Montana for a wedding. I was not here to defend my score, so I just have to say that. But no, I actually, for me, it's a little bit like I do like the competitive side of things. Things like I like to see a number and be like, okay, I got to go see that again and do like try to get a higher score. So for me, it pushes my limits that way. And then I also, as far as speed goes, and it counts your turns, which I use quite a bit. So I'll select a piece of terrain and I'll try to do sometimes the same amount of turns, but faster speed. Or I'll try to do the same terrain and maybe like one less turn or two less turns. So it helps me play with like my variable scheme. And I do love all the other metrics, but like those I would say are the top two things for me. Just I like the competitive.
I just made a note to set up a showdown at team training, the Carve showdown. Katie,
there we go.
You can get your bets in now.
This is going to be bigger than the wrestling match between Dixon and Hafer, and they're still fighting about who won. And that was just two of the team. Now we get the whole team in this. Oh, this would be good, Angelo. This would be good because there's definitely some competitive folks on that team.
And there could be a good chance, like the Summit Academy, the rebranded Masters Academy, where they are in talks. I know Kathy Brennan talked to them. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but they're definitely talking about potentially creating some opportunities for demos so that people can try them.
Oh, that'd be great.
That happens, and Katie, myself, and maybe some other teammates will help, lead a clinic to help people understand how do you use the technology, how do you play with it, really.
Wednesday afternoon optionals right there. That'd be cool. Awesome. And so Kevin, there's been a bunch of projects because you seem to be the guy that always has a project going. You done, as far as I know, which I could be wrong. You finished the children's manual with Mark. You did the, I'm going to say it wrong. There's the field guide. What do we call it? The field. What do we call it? Oh, whew. Yes. Yes, I wanted to make sure I got the right wording. I've been out of on the hill all day. What's the wording? We used the right thing. So the field guide with Mark, you guys finished that. I don't know if there's any writing projects or is there a project? I mean, you're doing your Carve thing, but I mean, is there some other project you've got going?
Yeah, right now there's like a couple of articles in the works, but just barely an outline with maybe a couple of bullet points. I know that first off, I have to say, I learned a lot working with Mark Aiken. He's an amazing freelance writer, does it as a job. So I learned a lot from that man, and we became really good friends, and we had never really met. It was a Zoom pen pal relationship that finally, when we met at the Masters Academy, now Summit Academy, it was like, I thought, he's like, I recognize your voice. We're all wearing masks, 2022 or 2021. And I'm like, yeah, and I thought you were shorter. He's like,
yeah.
6 foot dude. So I was like, whoa, hey. But I know behind every good writer there's actually a really even better editor. And Wendy Schrupp just retired. She retired in end of June from PSIA-AASI, and she was the kind of the voice or the editor for 32 Degrees. So I actually went to her retirement party because I would have not been able to do all the projects without her help. She always made us sound smarter than we actually are, better writers than we actually are. And so there's a new gentleman, Christian Green. He seems great to work with. I just haven't worked with him as much as I worked with, Wendy since 2006, 2007, maybe is one of my first articles. So a couple articles. I know there's been some talk of maybe, manuals, let's face it, the Alpine Technical Manual is going to be 10 years old. It was 2014, and there's been some stuff that's changed. So that has changed since then. So I think it's probably due in the future, but like any project, that's going to be with a team of people. And it's, even though one person may have the co-author credit, it's really there's at least 40 to 50 people really working their tails off to get that coming off the ground. So,
yeah. Well, if you ever get bored, and Katie, same thing, the guy on this podcast with me is the education development manager. So I guarantee if you need a project, he has projects.
I can get you on a lot of Zoom calls.
Yeah, you've been working on that though. I heard you were saying you're kind of minimizing that a little bit. Instead of 38 a week, it's like
36.
36. Kevin? Have you let Katie know that about the Zoom calls and the task forces and all that extra work of no sliding, but tons of work by team members and non-team members, and just there's been a ton going on.
Oh yeah, no, I mean there's always something to do, and if you raise your hand, it will get snatched up in a second. So if Katie asks me questions, I'll definitely let her know what my experience was. But for me, I'm looking forward to a 4-year term instead of 3, because all I know is hit the ground running, and we had 2 years to prepare for Interski, and I'm really interested to see what 3 years looks like before Interski. But I also remember that, the day after we had the selection and everybody made it and we're in a room, I had this moment where I looked around and I was like, where the hell's Robin? Like, where's Robin? Where's Robin? And I was like, oh yeah, no, she wasn't on the team. So I actually texted her, and she's like, hey man, just remember that every team is going to be its own thing. And so it was really weird because it was almost like, that's not the right word, but it was the end of one thing and the start of a new thing. And I found myself stuck in the middle for a split second of just not knowing what to do. But Robin's text really helped, where she's like, hey, hook it in and just pay attention to, what's going on. And that's really how I've approached this, new team. It's, Katie, I'm pretty excited that she's also a fellow team member on Team Head. So we've got that connection. We've got some Carve work, and I was like, well, let's do a podcast together, see how it goes. Yeah. So already we're working together, if that makes sense. And as projects come our way, I'm sure it will only strengthen the bond, and we'll get better at working together as a team. So,
yeah. And thinking about that, do you feel like you found kind of your role in the team? I know every team member is looking for, and I think Robin's talked about it, and Michael talks about it, and some of the other team members, Anne, I think, talked about it, didn't she, Angelo, of, finding your role in the team. Did you feel like you found that role in 3 years? And if you did, is it kind of like now with the new team, you're like, well, I had this role, but we're a new team, you got to figure out where we all fit?
Kind of. I mean, I still try to be myself and be authentically who I am, and I'm not going to change that. But one thing that I did find really interesting was, first off, I think no one knows who I am really. Like I feel that way. I know that's not 100% true. Someone came up to me in Portillo and they saw me recognizing the team jacket, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, are you on the national team?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, I'm like, "Oh, I'm Kevin, Jordan." Some people call me KJ. I'll answer to really anything. It doesn't matter what you call me. I'll answer to anything. You can call me Katie. It's fine. It doesn't matter. But what's interesting is I kind of feel like that. And I think I always may feel like that. So it's not, when someone asks for help, I just volunteered to do it. It has nothing to do with oh, Carv's taking these really awesome pictures and you're going to get some really good press. I was like, that's an added benefit. But they also ask for help testing the product and for, filming and photo shoots, which I actually find super hard to talk in front of a camera at length about things that matter to other people. So I haven't necessarily found my role necessarily on this team. I did get a really good compliment right before the tryouts, which I did not see coming. And I'll share it because I'm not 100% sure if I feel that way. But this person had said, when they go to these different events, they look around and they see who the members try to interact with or who they talk to the most. And so she named off a bunch of team members. It was not just me. And then after that, with that group of team members, she said, "You all are the glue." And she said, "You all are the glue." And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean the glue? And she's like, "Well, you're the ones that hold it all together." And I was like, really? Isn't that the coach? Isn't that what the coach does? Or I kind of was taken aback by it because I didn't really believe her, so to speak. But it's one of those things when your teammate asks you to do something, you just do it because you have their back. So for example, Michael Rogan asked me, "Hey man, do you need anything?" Because a lot of times, he asks that of everybody. But I don't know how many people ask that of him, right? So he's like, "Yeah, well, it wouldn't be too much trouble. Could you bring some peanut M&Ms, down? Could you bring some peanut M&Ms?" And he's like, like a Costco sized bag. And I was like, Costco? I don't have time to go to Costco. It's an hour and a half away from me. I'm not going to go there. So literally I went to 3 grocery stores, couldn't find any of the party size, had to call some friends who found them, but I got 3 2-pound bags. So I had 6 pounds of peanut M&Ms to bring down for Billy for him. And of course he's like, hey man, like, what do I owe you? And I was like, nothing, because you would do the same for me. Like you would do 100% the same for me, but you asked for it, I'm going to give it to you. And that's just how I've kind of rolled on the team, and we'll keep rolling on the team. So I'm not sure if it's the glue, because I feel like there's a lot of times that different people have to be the glue, but it was a pretty huge compliment that I'm like, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
I can confirm that, though, from my experience of being on the team with KJ for, just a few months. But yeah, like he's been super welcoming and helped guide me through the process of signing a contract with Head. And to me, that was really awesome to have a teammate to chat with about all these things that, and not to say that other people weren't by any means, but I think you're just so bubbly and friendly. It's like, I don't feel afraid to go approach you like, what do I do in this situation? So I can confirm he's the glue.
That's cool.
Friendly, awesome, bubbly glue.
Yeah, and it's that.
Well, he brought us together during blueberry season.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're glue, bud.
Yeah.
You got Dave out of the blueberry fields.
Well, yeah. Yes, he did. Angelo has a hard time getting me on the phone this time of year.
It's tough.
I know how you are, but I was like, hey, we're only going to be in Portillo for a couple of days, so it's now or never. And if you want to say no, that's okay too. We can do that.
Yeah. Paulie about this time of year, he's ready for Labor Day. And Paulie just says, you work too much, Andrea. He says to my wife, Andrea, you work too much. Dave, you work too much. Because he wants to go play hide and seek on the bikes and on the four. He loves getting on the Ranger. Him and I get on the Ranger, and my wife will get on the four-wheeler. And so then we play hide and seek on the trails we have here. We got about 6 miles. So we have to have a plan before we go out, because we could never find each other if we don't have a plan. But Paulie doesn't quite know we have a plan. But yeah, he's ready for a break too. And it'll come soon. It's coming soon, but this is super cool to get on here. And that's, Katie, I know you won't have like the exact thing, but like, do you have some thoughts just even in your head of like, yeah, I want to kind of see how the team goes and see where I can fit in. And I have these ideas of what I'd like to accomplish as a team member in a bigger picture for like your role? Or is it kind of, you're going to keep those in the back of your head and go, I just got to go in and see a team training and see how things flow and then fit in?
Yeah. I guess it's hard to say. I don't want to like overpromise and underdeliver here, but, yeah, I'm going into it with a super open mind, and I'm excited to learn from all my teammates, especially those who have been on the team before. And luckily, I'm getting to connect, Michael, Troy, Kevin, Brenna, and Shorling's on our way down tomorrow. So I feel like it's pretty cool to have all this extra time with teammates down here. But yeah, I think a lot about my role here in Portillo as ski school director, and it's a tight-knit small team. And I feel like what I bring is like a kind of a more like calming. I try to be pretty, excited about things, but like keep people, I don't know, maybe more diplomat is how my role here. And yeah, and I feel like I think about that a lot when when it comes time to make decisions. Like, it's kind of just moving the needle a little bit at a time, getting everybody on board, not necessarily worrying about like the end goal when you're making a decision, but like just move the needle a little bit. And so I feel like, for my understanding and my experience of being on the NRM board, when I think about strategic alignment, I'm really excited to help with that process, because I feel like, I think that'll be really cool. And I'm excited to help plan for Interski. And there's other projects that I am thinking about that I've been ready to jump in. And but ultimately have an open mind and learn from everyone. And then,
It's pretty cool. I know in Angelo's head, he left the last Interski and all he was doing was like, I'm going back to the next one. That was before he had his role now. So your mind must be spinning, Angelo. And I know you and Dave, Mr. Schuling, and I know all the coaches are definitely already, as Michael has said, already, not coming down with this, and this, but you guys are definitely having thoughts. You're looking forward to that 4 years to Interski.
Yeah, it's we're having meetings about it now, and they recently started up, but it's a huge process. So the meetings that have occurred have mostly been between the Interski organization and the town of Vail, because it's a huge event that involves municipalities and international organizations, and then obviously with this one being in the States for the first time since the 60s, that's huge. And you want to put on a great show. So it's, I'm glad we have that extra year, Kevin.
And it's got to put a smile on your face, Katie and Kevin, because that is super exciting. To make the team and know the next Interski is in our country and in the West over at Vail, and just to work towards that and be part of the team that's going to be the team in the USA, the one team of all the disciplines here in the USA. I'm a little bit, there's got to be some nerves in there, which is cool. But what is like the most exciting thing for you? The thing you've thought about the most just in your own mind of being able to be a part of that?
Like our home and what we want to bring, like that I get like nervous excited about that. It's like when you're hosting a big party or hosting something, and like that anticipation before the guests arrive. That's kind of what I'm feeling right now. And of course it's a little more like nerves for me because I've never been to an Interski. This will be my first one, and I don't know what our plan is. But I'm excited about the thought of like, we get to host all of these countries to our home, and we can show them, and we get to set the tone and the stage for the event. And I think that's a really unique, special opportunity that I'm really excited to be a part of.
And I would just add, like, this is really, like, this may be Katie's first term and my second term, but it's actually our first team together. Right. And so that means that I have team experience, but this Interski will be nothing like the other Interski at Levy, which is the first one I went to. Now, I am super excited that it's in Vail for some partly selfish reasons that will make it closer for my family to maybe come and see some of the aspects, like maybe some of the show runs. And I love the formation skiing. Like it's the only time that I feel like a jet fighter pilot, but minus like there's some G forces, but not enough to like me to pass out because all the blood is rushed like down out of my head. I haven't skied that. I don't ski that well, so to do it that way. But the interesting thing is, like, when we came down, the one of the highlights for me was like coming down the demo slope, and basically at the bottom, all the kids were like wanting to shake your hand and like borderline like autograph. No one really asked me for one, but it kind of felt like if they didn't speak Finnish and they spoke better English, they probably would have, but it was, I think of myself as a professional athlete. I know Katie probably does the same, and she's a very good athlete, but it's one of those things where we're also educators. And so we're also, caught's not the right word, but sometimes like we're on two sides of this world where we're trying to be like, okay, so we're professional athletes, we're trying to inspire, we're trying to show people, but then we can also explain how to do things. And so that was definitely one of the highlights. There were many, but one of them where I'm kind of excited to share that with my family, friends and people and really the world. But on a U.S. stage, there might be a little more pressure, but I'm so excited to actually have it on home soil because there's a 1968 photo at the top of the North American Run, which was built on Aspen Mountain, where they hosted the 1968 Interski. And I go past that every time I see it, and I kind of take a little moment and I'm like, wow, I get to be a part of something like that history that maybe someone like, whatever, do the math, it's like 50, 60 years later, gets to go past. Like, it's pretty cool. It's something way bigger than yourself. So
Yeah, it's kind of funny going to this one. I got to ask Angelo, because Angelo and I, before he got this job, we were chatting about the next Interski. And man, imagine if we were there doing some podcasts, and this dude's going to be working his butt off at the next one. He's not going to be doing any podcasts with me at the next one.
Well, hopefully by then I'll be so good at delegating, I'll just be able to do podcasts with you all day long.
There you go. I'm going to love it. Going to love it.
Shame on me if I don't, right?
Yeah, that's right, man. Shame on. We'll have to do something, because I'm definitely planning on being at this one when it comes up. So this last one, I wanted to go to, I was thinking about going to Finland, and I was like, I don't know if I can make it work. But the next one, pretty much on there, I hope to be there to see, because it was, I'll tell you, Kevin probably knows, Angelo definitely knows, that I was literally in the greenhouses when you guys were in Finland and checking things. I watched Anne's keynote as she was doing it on my phone in the greenhouses, and it was super cool. I texted Angelo. You were in a different session, I think, weren't you? Mm-hmm. So I'm texting Angelo, and Anne had barely finished, like 5 minutes, like 30 seconds. I'm like, Angelo, we need to get Anne on. When you get back, we need Anne right away to come on the podcast. And he's like, what are you talking about? So it definitely was exciting to be able to see. I watched, like, when you guys were doing your demos, and with the big camera there, we could watch all day long. We could turn, if people were on that hill, on the demo hill, you could watch that. It was super cool, and all the keynotes and that stuff was really neat to be able to watch. So it's going to be super cool to have that happen. And as we change gears, you're skiing this week, Kevin. Not on the mountain bike, and you've been on the mountain bike a lot. I know you don't. You must mountain bike before June, because I know you went through all that with George. And like, when you get off, what are some of the stuff you bike? Because you said you can't get up on the hill because of the elk. When you're talking with George, with their calving and that. But what's kind of your start off snow before you hit into the bikes and start to teach on the bikes?
Yeah, so basically, I'm kind of off snow towards the end of April, and then we're actually biking in the middle of May. So there's only like 2 weeks or so, because I also do some other work with PMBIA, so the Professional Mountain Bike Instructors Association, and so I'm a course conductor with them. So I literally give a level 1 course. Usually in May, we have a one trail network that opens on May 16th, and usually May 16th we're giving a level 1 and get people through their paces, but what's cool, like, so my summer job is essentially working in the bike school and helping to manage that with a couple other people. And it's really fun. It's just like ski school, but with bikes. And we train people, we do certification, we do all the same things that happen in the winter, kind of happen in the summer, and staffing different people and trying to manage privates. But one of the cool thing about it is, what I've always loved about mountain biking is just, okay, it's a different sport, but how well can I clearly communicate information, right? And how do I do that? And it's actually been great. Like, it's improved my clinic leading skills to do some of that. And so what happens is the bike park doesn't open until June 21st. So I do a lot of trail running before then to try to get in shape. And the bike park opens, and I pretty much, stuck's not the right word, but I tend to ride more bike park just because that's what other people want. And so I don't get to trail ride as much. But then usually my family kind of goes back east for a couple weeks. And when I'm like a couple weeks as a bachelor, I get to trail ride a lot. Like, I'll go on 3 or 4 hour bike rides and just keep going. Oh, I'll go on this trail now. Now I'll go on this trail. But I don't have the same time constraint that I do. But September is my favorite time to ride. All the leaves are changing in Aspen, and it's a little cooler. But also my kids are in school, and I can go on a 3 or 4 hour bike ride while they're in school and still pick them up. And it's awesome.
And Katie, with the endless winter, you have your shoulder seasons there for a month and a half each kind of, but what do you do to make sure you stay in tip top shape? Like, do you have kind of regime for your Yellowstone time and then those shoulder seasons in the summer? Is it the same? Does it change?
Yeah. Well, this is my background. So I studied strength and conditioning in college, and so I'm kind of always playing around with my programming and what I do. But I try to do, year round, I lift weights probably like 3 to 4 days a week, and then I do here in Portillo. I run either out on the road when the international highways closed. I don't like to do it when there's trucks flying up the road, but I run either on the road or on a treadmill probably 3 times a week. And I've recently been doing like more of I've been adding sprint workouts to my regime. So I do maybe 2 sprint workouts a week. But in Montana, I spend a lot more time rather than running. I do cross country skiing. So I skate and classic and try to get involved with we have some smaller like community races. And then last year I did the Birkebeiner in Hayward, Wisconsin, and I'm signed up to do it again this year. So I definitely keep myself busy, and actually I'm really good at programming workouts for myself and not so good at programming rest. So I'm working on that. I'm working on rest. I do yoga, Pilates. I mean, I try to do it all, but yeah.
That athlete part. I think a lot of folks, Angelo, we try to put it out there, and so many of our level 1, level 2, level 3, it's not like they need a program every day, but if they want to get to a high level, they've got to add some stuff.
You got to move the needle.
Yeah. Move the needle. Gee, right. There's the tagline for the podcast. Move the needle.
Do something. Do something.
And I know with all of you, the learning never stops. The wanting to get better, that competitive, as you said, Kitty, you said you're pretty competitive with yourself. And I know that's the piece of, okay, I know I can do better tomorrow. I know can I make this turn better? Can I present this? What are the things? And I don't know who wants to start, and I'll let Kevin might jump in, might not, or Katie might, but can you give some thoughts to our listeners just on, you just came off a team tryout. You both made the team, and everybody goes, my God, they're amazing, which you are. But I know in every team member's mind, there's things they want to continue to work on and get better. And like you said, you got to come in that day, right that minute when you get off that plane, and you got to perform. Troy's talked about, you put that uniform on. What is it that you're focused on? Is there a couple things that you're like, this is an area, might not even be a weakness, but this is an area that I want to get even better in because it's so good for my performance?
Yeah, so I think, physically, one of the things I've been working on for a couple of years is that like quintessential, like dragging the hip on the snow. And I'm going to say it more as like a show turn, like to get it super good for the camera. Like I am working on that almost every day. Now, one of the ways that I cheat is I kind of extend my inside arm. When I do it, it actually inclines me more. So the only thing that I've been focusing is the inside arm needs to stay bent. Like that's all it needs to do in all the videos and the photos and everything like that. Because if I do that, then I can actually drop the hip down lower. It creates space for it. So that's like the physical thing that I'm doing. The other piece that I'm thinking of is I know I saw some of your questions, but it was like, out of people skills, teaching skills, technical skills, like what are you thinking of or doing? I think for me, it's like I see skiing as very much a gray area. I think about it as like a musician has a lot of artist influence. And when you ski down, it's really, you have all these different influences, and then you can kind of create your own song, so to speak, as you come down, or painting, or whatever the analogy you want to use. And so what I think about is, in terms of technical understanding, I'm always challenging that. And it's also created maybe like an opportunity or area of growth where I can just have more confidence in my technical understanding, right? So I understand how certain things work. How do I share that information in such a way that doesn't come across as like it's black or white, but it's more like, okay, I see what you're saying, or be more curious about what the other person is trying to explain to you, so that I can understand a little bit differently or a little better. So it's just like an area of growth, of just more confidence in that technical understanding of saying some things, not with like authority, but just with more of like, oh, well, if you do this, then you do that, and then you do this, it seems to work,
Cool. Katie.
Yeah, right now, and I mean, from a more technical standpoint, I'm in my skiing. I'm working on. Well, we get to race quite a bit here, so I'm just working on racing, and that's pretty awesome because it's black and white. You're faster or you're not faster. And I really like that about racing. It's something that you can like go and do and work towards. And it's easy to feel, like you're making progress. And then the other thing I'm working on is skiing. We have in Portillo amazing terrain, and we have some tighter chutes. that I tend to, like, as I go through them, I turn my skis up the hill a bit too much, and I control my speed through the bottom of the turn rather than controlling speed through the turn. And so I'm just wanting to ski those tighter lines with a bit more fluidity. And there's a couple that have like some, airs at the end. And my goal for this season is to ski this one line where I can ski it and not stop before the jump. So I just flow right through, air, land, keep going. And for me, I'm not quite there, but I'm working on it.
Pretty good. And I think a lot of our members don't realize, that everyone's working on something and never stops doing it. And it's pretty cool. I think that's, Troy has talked about that whenever the team gets together, or even a couple of you get together, it's like always talking about different stuff and how to get better. And just to, like you said, Kevin, just being able to get together, and Katie said it already, that, seeing team members, Ann's coming down and Brenda's down there, and, seeing all the different people that when you're able to get together and chat and think about skiing. I mean, Angela, we talk about it, man. When we're on the road, breakfast and dinner is where we're doing more of our training than on the snow.
Yeah, that's right. You get, set up what the day is going to be at breakfast, and then hash it out if that really happened at dinner.
That's right. I told you I was going to do this thing with my group. Didn't work at all. Tomorrow, we got to go back to the drawing board. That's what I'm thinking.
But that's the experiential part of being a teacher, right? It's like reflecting on that. If you're talking about being out with a group and how did it go? If you don't have that conversation, then you don't know how it went. So it's about that debrief at the end and just trying to be better the next day, Yeah.
And I love, Katie, you said earlier in the podcast, you were talking about that one place you went up to and would ski, and when you were talking about the Carve, and you had that in there, count your turns. And you're like, I try to go up there and do it with the same amount of turns, but ski faster. Or I try to go up and do it with one more turn. You change the variables, and that's that play, explore, experimentation. And what did it take to do that? And what did you have to do? Kind of like, how do I get more energy and speed control coming through the turn versus the end? I think a lot of our folks go out and they just take one body part, but it's kind of cool to listen to you guys. You know what you want your outcome to be. And then you kind of play with the variables, and the body parts come in there, but a lot of the variables to see what it takes to make that happen, that experimentation and exploration. I think that's a big part of growing and learning. I don't know what the two of you think on that. Yes, no, maybe?
Yeah, I definitely think it's easy to get hung up on like a very specific thing. Like, I need to flex my outside leg at the end of the turn. And I've gone into that like too specific, and I end up skiing kind of too calculated or too robotic. And so for me, my journey was really like after the last tryout. Like I said, I had a lot of fun skiing, and for a year, when someone asked me what I was working on, all I said was flow. I'm just trying to flow down the hill. And I mean, I had my internal explanation of that I could explain to people if it was like a training setting. But essentially, I wanted to move with my skis and not create, like sometimes, I think, and it's fun to do, like we create positions in skiing, but before they're needed, like we might create mad angs, but it's not necessary. Or we might create counter rotation before it's really necessary. And so I think like if you can play with those external variables more, like how many turns you do in a certain amount of space, how fast you ski it, like whatever the different variables might be, turn like the funnel or hourglass. I think that's a really good way to not get too hyper focused on a position. Because then if you think about it, like any position we're in skiing, it should be a single little quick snapshot. We shouldn't be hanging out there. So that's my take. But
and I would just add, Brenna's down here. She's actually with the Carve shoot as well. So she is also an ambassador, and it's been really fun to work with her because I always enjoyed our time together. But one of the things that's interesting is sometimes she'll go first in this like photo shoot thing. And that gives me an opportunity to kind of gauge like how fast did she go or where did she go. Then sometimes I'll go first. And right now I've been struggling with like the times that I go first, because they're literally like throwing a snowball where you have to hit like the mark. And I find that like sometimes, like there was a shot that they posted, I put on my story, and it was an amazing shot. Well, I also had to hike back up and stay in the light to go do that. So I had to hike back up like 150 feet, catch my breath, because we're at like 9,700 feet. There's somewhere in the middle there, about 10,000 feet. And then go and beat the sun before the sun went down. And it was like, oh my gosh, it was so exhausting. It was such a mental puzzle to be like, okay, if I need to hit that ball there, I need to be going this fast here. The exit angle needs to be here so I can arc it around, so I can get it going across. So what's my, all these things going through my head. And I can't think about that many things other than, oh my gosh, this guy wants me to do it right now. Okay, I need to be able to do it right now. And it was amazing. He's like so impressed with the shot, and I'm like, dude, I survived that.
Oh, that's awesome. And I don't want to leave without Katie. Can you tell a little bit about how does somebody start teaching in Portillo? Or how do they go from teaching in the East here in the US or West or wherever, other countries? How do they go, and what's the path they need to take to be able to teach down there? And is it like the full season? I've heard, so I know some of my crew that's on the examiner staff here in the past has gone down, even probably before your time, they've done a month, they've done a few weeks. I'm just curious, because I know a lot of people go, how do you get down there to work?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that was a thing. And then out of COVID, we didn't have those part-time positions, but you know what, this season, I wish I would have had some. Like we're back to busier than ever. So I think that will be a thing in the future where we have like the month of July part-time position available. But yeah, I mean, typically we're looking for full certs. I'll hire occasionally like a level 1 or 2 for our kids camp program. And I think it's a great way to develop some newer, less experienced instructors. And, but yeah, level 3 is like the majority of our school is level 3. Definitely think experience teaching or speaking Spanish. And then we also have Portuguese down here. We have Brazilians who speak Portuguese. And this year I had a pretty competitive hiring class. So pretty much everyone that came down, was, full cert and or has extensive language experience. And so, it's not necessarily like, you gotta have it, but I would say, get on Duolingo if you're not experienced with at least Spanish. Portuguese is always the wild card. People come down here and they're like prepared for Spanish, and then you get Portuguese and it's just different enough. Confuses you for a month, and then you start to catch on. But yeah, and the way to apply is just email me.
Yeah, there you go. Email Katie White. That's the way to do it. And she's pretty easy to find on our national team. If you can't get right on the national website, PSIA-AASI, and you can find all the team members, the little bios there. And hopefully we'll see Katie in the East coming to, what are we calling? That's going to be I think the Summit Academy this year. I got to get that wording down. They haven't put it out there, but I have seen it. So Summit Academy and Eastern Academy. So Angelo, he's probably, he loves all those words, and then the AAs and the ACs and the LOs. And I just remember the first year we had that at training, we're all sitting there and these characters knew what the LOs were and the AAs. And thank God somebody else raised their hand and said, can you tell me what an AA is? What are we talking about? And then someone went, oh, yeah.
You remember when Baloo came and he was talking about Fitz and Posner scoring scale and flying through all that stuff? And we're like, what's an AC?
I was still figuring out LO. What's L? What did I miss? Like, I went home in the spring and I came back to examiner training to start the year. And I'm like, this is weird. Like, I don't even know what they're talking about. But thank God somebody else said something and no one else knew what the heck an LO was for a learning outcome. Now we're all good, but oh my God. And what was the new one? It was the new one that Schuling got me on it. The letters for the unified assessment form.
Oh, that's FU, Dave.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what I thought it was. I'm like, God damn it, Dave. Oh man, you got me on that one. I was like, son of a bitch. Oh, well, we're just gonna have to start drinking on the podcast again. That's all it is. Oh, Angela, you were drinking.
I thought it was on the logo. I thought it was
It is on the logo, man. There's no shock top in the fridge. If I had shock top in the fridge, I'd have one. And I don't know. I haven't opened the bourbon cooler in a while, which the bourbon call is going to get on me. But Angelo, you and the rest of the crew did a great job. What's that?
I said, sounds like a lot of excuses there. I mean,
it is. I know, man. It's like I got to get off the wagon.
Yeah.
You did a good job. The scores did a good job, Katie. Congratulations. It's easy to see, and if our listeners can't tell, just chatting with you while you're on the team without even seeing you skiing, they're crazy because it's really cool to chat with you. Great to meet you, and even on Zoom, hopefully we'll see you at the in the East in the fall to come on out and ski with the crew out there. It's super fun. Maybe do that Carve thing Wednesday. That sounds like an awesome Wednesday afternoon optional there, Kevin, doing that. Hopefully Kathy can work that out with Carve. That'd be super cool to see, and it'd be fun. And Kevin, congrats on the second term. I know you work super hard and I think everybody that's on this team, to be able to be on this team, is going to be historic, to be able to have Interski in the home country, and that's going to be super cool. I think every minute of your 4-year term is going to be super fun. So congrats. You've both worked super hard, I know, to get there. And really cool, Kevin, on that. I hope people learn from that little gig, sending Katie the note afterwards. I mean, it means a lot when people reach out and try to help people when they're kind of down on, that. Like you said, Katie, it was like you went and did some of your best. It's like, it wasn't like, oh, I screwed this up or that. And that's a lot of times, especially when it comes to tryouts. Our tryouts here in the East to come on the ed staff in that same way. It's not always a standard. It's, who they felt would be on the team, make a better fit. And this year it's the two of you. It's awesome. And, so congrats and thanks for joining us tonight. And I know they came from, if we didn't say it in the beginning, they came from a wine tasting, but they said they only tasted 2 wines. So Angela, I was thinking they were going to bring wine after the wine tasting. They'd have some glasses and they would have picked the bottle that was the perfect one. And we were going to, toast on the podcast, but that didn't quite happen.
I think Kevin has a lot of room in his bag though for the way home after unloading 6 pounds of M&Ms for Michael.
Yeah. I already bought I was talking to Katie and trying to get some ski Portillo swag and t-shirts and shirts and everything because I have one from 2012, but it's all it's got holes everywhere, and I'm like, wow. Thank you so much. And
hey, Kevin, that one you're working on with the hip on the snow, just pretend you're George or Bart.
Okay. Yeah. They've actually they've given me some tips and it seems to work. And I love following those two around and trying to emulate them a bit. But I think they're on the wrong skis. That's part of the problem. No.
Yeah. I don't know. Angela and I think they're on pretty good skis, by the way, but yes.
Hey, Dave can get his hip on the snow.
I can get it on the snow. I just don't get back up.
There it is.
It's easy to get the hip on the snow, but it's hard after you get it on the snow. Is it going to come back up?
He does this move where he gets his hip on the snow and then spins like a starfish to the bottom of the lift.
Yeah,
it's really cool,
especially when I'm on my telegear, man. It's easier to spin there, but yeah, those two dudes. They live with their hip on the snow.
Yeah, I've never seen them up from it.
No, it's like boom. It's like, oh, here comes one of the Flynn brothers. So, but no, super cool. But have fun. Have a great rest of the winter down there for you, Katie, and have a great time down there, Kevin. And hope to chat with both of you this winter as we go through the season. We'd love to have you back on again. This is number 3, isn't it, Kevin?
I think it's 2. Yeah, 2 or 3. I think
it's 3, or maybe 4, because you were on by yourself, then you were on with Mark. Did we have you and Mark twice?
I think we might have had twice because we might have did the field guide. I don't know. So it's 3.
Yeah, I think twice. So this could be number 4. So you're catching up to Michael, which Michael kind of rules the roost, man. If Michael calls or texts us, we're ready to go. So that's always cool. So he's got it on the map that he wants to, which we were psyched. He wanted to chat after the national teams are down there and crew and maybe chat about what he saw and what they're working on. So that's going to be super cool. Hopefully we'll hit that. And maybe Katie can make a sneak appearance on that.
Oh, I will.
I listened to the last one with Troy and Michael, and then I even learned some things that Michael doesn't tune his skis down here. So I was like, why am I bringing? I'm tuning the skis, listening to your podcast. I also think of it as the late night talk show. So like, this is the late night talk show that we got to hit all the circuits. Right? We got to go on. And so it's funny. I was like, I didn't know that about him and Portillo. Like, why wouldn't you tune? There's so many rocks here. Like, you probably need to tune more often than you do anywhere else.
Yeah. I mean, up here, it's like every day, it's like it's shining when it comes and gets put on the rack. It's like Michael, he's like Dave Wen. He comes out and checks your skis before he'll ski with you. If you didn't get him tuned, I'm not going with you. And now in Portillo, he doesn't even touch him. And so he's going to be on all the skis Troy skied on. So he's not tuning them the rest of the summer, man. And he's just going to go, no, I haven't tuned all summer. It's like, oh my God, crazy.
Yeah. I don't know when he would have time to tune, to be honest. He's, I don't even know when he has time to sleep. It's like, I think he's out on the mountain at like 2 a.m. He knows everything that's going on here. So, but yeah, he could use a tune.
I don't know if Michael has to tune even in the north, man. Just watch him ski. God almighty, give him some 2x4s and he'll do just fine. He doesn't even need edges. So, but thanks to the both of you. Have a great one. And this has been the Fall Line with Chaos and Company.